transgender umbrella. I can't really see my little rainbow umbrella over there. It's a really, really cute picture with all these little kids with these little rainbow-colored Crocs underneath it. So these are some of the terms that people use. Gender variant. People don't like that term because, obviously, what are you a variant of? And what, of course, what you're a variant of is a heteronormative expectation of what your gender should look like. So people don't like that expression. Gender atypical, not typical, similar problem. Gender nonconforming. I'm growing to like that word more and more, particularly when talking about young people, because in the same way we like the word questioning with youth, you know, I don't know that 14-year-olds, unless they're comfortable putting the word gay on themselves, you know, I think lots and lots and lots of young people question their sexual identity. So in a similar vein, when young people are presenting gender atypical behavior, I'm comfortable seeing them as gender nonconforming. I'm not quite as comfortable seeing them as transgender. And actually, I don't think that was one of the books that I had asked Ken to order, but there's a book called The Transgender Child. And as we move through today, you'll see why I'm recommending that book. And I hate the title of the book for the reason I just said. And actually, the author of the book hates the title too, but that's similar to the story I told you yesterday about my book. That the press decided that was the title of her book, and that's what the title of her book is. But I feel like it's a very hard book for me to give families that are dealing with this because that word is just too scary. And I would have rathered a term like, you know, gender nonconforming or different, you know, kids that are different with gender or something that's easier to take off a shelf than to put that label on your 5-year-old kid. I mean, I think it's really scary. So I'm going to talk more about this, but transgender is used as an umbrella term. So it includes everybody that we're talking about, but it's important to understand it includes people who may not want to be included. So that's a complicated issue. I'm going to talk in a minute about the specificity of the term transsexual, okay, that many transsexual people are uncomfortable with the umbrella of transgender. Actually, there's a line that I said in my book that another colleague of mine took that line out and wrote an article about it. And the line was a client of mine saying, I don't want to be under that umbrella. I'd rather get wet. Okay, it's a great line. Okay, well, I'll talk more about that. Cross-dressers, we almost always mean men, okay, because really all the women here are cross-dressers. I mean, and again, if there's no better proof to me that this is about society, not about identity. Okay? If every woman in this room, almost, would be considered a cross-dresser 30 years ago but not a cross-dresser today, then it's not about our clothes. It's about what we think about that. So most of us here would find it humorous, odd, if all of the men in this room were wearing dresses and earrings, or not all, just some who might want to, okay? Our culture says you don't do that. Although, of course, among young people, you know, when I was young, you could wear one earring if you're a guy. Now you could wear two. A lot of young people are painting their nails now, usually on college campuses, not much out in the work world, right? But it's changing a little bit, you know. Guys pretty much can wear long hair, but there's sort of all kinds of rules. Guys are wearing pink shirts now, okay? You know, once upon a time, pink was considered a virile color. It wasn't always true that boys wore blue and girls wore pink. I mean, these are cultural constructs. Okay, so cross-dressers are men who wear women's clothing. Generally, they wear them sort of because they like them. Sometimes it's erotic for them. Most of the time, they don't do it all the time. Sometimes they just do it on weekends. Okay? So, and again, I think a lot of times they only do it on weekends because they get fired if they did it during the week. But they like that. We can talk about why do some people like that, and why do some women like wearing pants. You know, I mean, there's no reason that a guy would not like wearing a dress anymore. I mean, anybody here that has young children, you know that little boys, I'm going to say under 5, under 7, under 5, definitely under 4, like to twirl just as much as little girls like to twirl, and they love to put things in their hair, and they do all of that stuff, and they love to play dress up, and they love to put on mommy's high heel shoes. They love to do all of that. But something happens that suddenly says, you can't do that. I just want to say, I'm on record, I'm on film. I allowed my boys to do that. They have a big dress-up thing in their house. One is 14 now and one is 10. And kids loved coming to my house. Okay? And to my knowledge, neither one of my boys, they pretty much go to school wearing the same clothes that other boys go to school. But I didn't want to take that away from them. You know, that, because that's what happens, is right about the age of 7, like, you can't do that anymore. Stop doing that. Especially fathers don't like that. Get very upset about that. I'm going to talk about that this afternoon, because I could almost bet, I have them, I can put money down, the phone rings, hi, I'm calling up because I want to come in because I'm a little concerned about my kid's gender behavior. Your kid's 7? How did you know that? Because 7 is that age. If it doesn't go away by 7, 7 is first grade. He wants to wear a little pink thing to school. That's not okay. All right. Intersex we talked a little bit about yesterday. Again, should that be under the transgender umbrella? We could argue about that. Two-spirit is a Native American expression. And again, I said people define gender really differently in different cultures. In many, many, many Indian cultures, the concept was neither gay nor trans the way we think about it today. Okay, so that whole grid that I showed you yesterday, I'm going to show you again in a few minutes. Remember I said this is a Western phenomenon, right? And I'm talking to people in a Western culture right now. But in other cultures, it's a two-spirit. The idea is that these people have both male and female spirits, both male and female energy. So is it gay? Is it trans? We have to take it out of our frames to look at that. The term I'm going to use, this is the one place where it's good to memorize now. It'll make the rest of the day easier. Trans men, female to males. People moving from female to males are called FTMs, or trans men. People moving from male to female are called MTFs, or trans women. Don't ask me why, why we don't say trans women and we say trans men and we say transgender women. Again, this is all like, the common term is trans men, the common term is transgender women. And excuse me. Gender benders or gender blenders, what's the difference? Okay, a lot of young people particularly really like bending gender. They really like making you uncomfortable with it. They do that on purpose. That's what we mean by bending, where blending is more sort of androgyny. People who are comfortable sort of mixing those kinds of symbols in how they dress. Bigendered, sort of a modern version of two-spirit. I feel like I have both. Gender queer, this is this wonderful new identity that only people under 30 understand. The rest of us are trying to catch on, but it's sort of this, again, it's almost this a little bit two-spirit kind of idea. It's the idea that on one level I don't want to be identified by my sexual orientation or my gender identity, and the issue is not who I sleep with, like that's your issue, that's not my issue, because I'll sleep with whoever I feel like sleeping with, but like I have sort of a gender that I can express in different ways on different days, however I feel like doing that, and it's queer because it's different, and the queerness becomes the identity of the community. If that confused you, it confuses me too, and I don't know that I did such a good job with it. So, and third sex. Third sex is actually an old term from the 1800s that occasionally gets brought back in. Again, this idea that trans people are in some way neither male nor female, but